Welcome, everyone. Happy Monday. This is Michael Gibbs, and I'm here to help you build your cloud computing career. Maybe your goal is to become a cloud architect. Maybe your goal is to become a solution architect. Maybe your goal is to become an enterprise architect or a cloud engineer. In any case, I want to help you get cloud hired, cloud promoted, or have your best cloud computing career. I've loved my last 25-year cloud architect, network architect, enterprise architect career. It's been the most fun of my life ever since I left healthcare and went into tech. And I want you to be just as happy in your career. So that's why we do these completely free cloud computing question and answer sessions. So bring any of the questions that you have so we can help you build your best career. Get that first cloud architect job, that first cloud engineer job, that first solution architect job, whatever it is. I want to help you get hired. My name is Michael Gibbs, and for those of you that don't know me, I'm the founder and CEO of Go Cloud Careers, and I've been doing this tech thing for about 25 years. And I've been coaching others for at least 2 decades, and I've spent the last 25 years in architecture as a network architect, cloud architect, enterprise architect, and it's been my world. But prior to that, I even did a little network engineering, but most of my life before that was internal medicine. So let me tell you about some free things that we're doing to help the cloud computing community. This week, we have our completely free Azure Solution Architect Expert Bootcamp, and it's going to be a tech party. I'm going to get my propeller hat out. We're going to get all kinds of techie. It's going to be fun. Tuesday through Friday, we're going to do a complete Azure Solutions Architect Expert Bootcamp, and we're going to give you labs for you guys to do. We're going to talk about tech. We'll talk about some architectural principles. It's going to be fun. And it's completely free, and we want to help you build your best career. So please join us completely free for this free, fun training experience, our Azure Solutions Architect Expert Bootcamp. Can't wait to see you there. Also, this Thursday, we have our completely free How to Get Your First Cloud Architect Job webinar. And it's going to be an amazing, amazing experience for everyone that's going to be there. We'll come in, we will go over the actual cloud architect job so you know exactly what it is. We'll talk about the things you need to know, the things that make a hiring manager need to hire you right then and there on the spot, the way you can leverage your life experience, and we'll talk about how do you skip those HR gatekeepers that won't let your resume get to the hiring manager that may hire you, especially when you have no experience. So we're going to help you with that today because we know exactly how to help you build your career, and we're going to do that. Tomorrow night, we're planning on having a show. We should have one of our students coming in to talk to you about all the wonderful times that he's had building his cloud computing career, etc. And we'll take it from there. So the reason we're here, and one last thing that I want to tell you, that right now and for the next week, and because it's going to end on Friday, we're going to give you 30% off of all of our training to help you get cloud hired, because I want all of you to get hired. And actually, my team says we're going to let it end on Sunday. So we're going to roll it until Sunday. So you've got a little extra time. So use coupon code potential. This applies to everything we do. Our Cloud Architect Career Development Program, which has gotten so many people cloud architect jobs this year. Our Cloud Engineer Career Development Program, as well as our Tech Interview Mastery Program, which can help you master the technical interview. And even our Tech Career Accelerator Program that will move you into management and help you earn more and stay hired and get hired, because it's everything that hiring managers desire. So take advantage of the 30% discount code. Use coupon code potential. So while we're here, the whole point is to help you by getting you to build your career. See, let's talk about 2 ways and approaches to training. There's one approach to training which is called general preparedness. And general preparedness involves learning everything, like literally trying to learn a little bit about a lot of things. It takes you forever to get there, and it gives you adequate knowledge about a lot of things. Now, let's look at this the way we do things, which is the opposite. We don't do generic preparedness. We do focused preparedness, which is very different. This is the way you would train a pro athlete. See, the careers that we work with, cloud architect roles, solution architect roles, cloud engineer roles, these are specialized careers that require a lot. So when you do your training, you could learn a little this, a little this, a little this, and a little this from 30 or 40 people's jobs. Or you can just learn your job, and only the skills necessary for your job. So I want you to think about this, because a lot of people are so focused on learning so many things. If you only learn what you need to know, you get there faster. It's like not trying to loop around the country to go, halfway across the country. But it's not just that. It's that when you only spend the time learning your skills and not wasting your time on the rest, you've got all that extra time left over to be the best in the world at your career. So while others are focusing on learning all these other cool things, and they're cool things, I got to tell you, and you're focused 100% on building your career is like a rocket ship and everybody else is stagnant. So, kind of keep about that. So I wanted to make sure that there's that. So here's the thing. That's one of the reasons we'd like to talk about focus training and things that are appropriate like that. So if you've got some questions about building your career, come and ask them. That's why we're here, to answer any questions you have, so you can get to those 2 points in a straight line. So kind of keep that in the back of your mind and tell me where you're at. Give me a hashtag cloud hired and tell me where your geography is, and then come ask any questions you want. Hi, Leo. How are you? Dylan Bell. Wow, the 16-year-old who's working so hard to build himself a career. Good to see you. Economy, how are you today? Douglas G, yes, cloud hire. Economy, passed the first interview, wore a full suit. Good. 55% of the communication is what you look like when you say something. 38% is what you sound like when you say something. And only 8% or 7% is the actual content. So good job, economy. I'm so happy to see you're going to go on to the next phase. Danica, hola, ¿qué tal? Mohammed, hello, Mike. How are you today? Mohammed, I'm doing wonderful. Shukran. And it's just so nice to see you. Grant, you took advantage of the sale, loving the content. Thanks so much. I'm so happy you're part of our program now, Grant, too. It's going to be a fun ride. I'm excited to be working with you. I'm so happy you're loving the content. Better Weather Freak, you're getting ready to start the labs? That sounds great. Labs are good. Gets you something that you can put down on your resume that you can show you've got some experience, especially things like building your own cloud like we do and building our own Active Directory servers, not just a silly little here you set up an S3 bucket. Yeah, we do them too because everybody's got to do it. But Bad Weather Freak, when you start building that cloud, it's going to explain so many things to you. I'm super excited about you getting ready to start our labs. Manila, Florida, cloud hired. Danica, San Jose, Costa Rica. Oh, the original San Jose, the beautiful San Jose. That sounds like a nice, fun place to be right now. Douglas G in Southern Maryland. 90 minutes from DC. Wow, there's a lot of traffic around there, let me tell you. But yeah, fantastic. Rob Thomas from Cleveland. I did a lot of work out there, did a lot of consulting to university hospitals a while ago. Even went out there and spent some time with the Cleveland Clinic out there. My sister was out there for a long period of time. And then I actually got to do some presentations at Ohio State Medical University. I had lots of time in that area. It's kind of nice. Cold in the winter, though. Dingo Man, just passed your SAA. What should your next step be? Dingo Man, you mentioned a certification, and certifications, are just certifications. The question I have for you is, what career would you like? And after you can tell me what career you would like, then I can tell you the things that you can do to get there. But just because you passed a certification, that's kind of like saying I had pizza last night. And it really doesn't mean you should get another certification or not get another certification. What drives the certification is the career you want. For example, let's say you had a certification of a doctor and a certification of a lawyer and a certification of an accountant. If you wanted to be a doctor, getting the lawyer certification is hurtful to your career because it makes you look like somebody else. Likewise, getting an accountant certification when you want to be a lawyer doesn't look too good either. So, Dingleman, if you can tell me what you'd like to do, I can build you a career path to get it. But I don't want to see you waste weeks, months, or years getting certifications. And sometimes getting the wrong certifications will keep you from getting hired, and we have to remove them from the resume. So I want to get you to your goal as fast as possible. So my question is, what career would you like? And then we can build them out. But a certification of itself doesn't really tell us what your past is, what your goals are, and whether it's even relevant or not. So tell me exactly what your goals are, and then I can help you figure out how to use that and do other things. Until we figure out what you would like to do, please ask some questions. I'm hoping you don't have to be shy. I love answering questions. I just don't like to, I like to give good advice. And if I don't know where someone's going, just mentioning certifications is most likely going to hurt people, not help them. Can you talk about how I would sell to the CTO and the chief security officer? Sure, but I got to tell you, I usually start a lot higher than that. But I usually go to these levels as well. How do you sell to the chief technology officer? So you have to figure out two things. What are the roles and what do the people care about in these roles? So if you think about it, a CEO cares about increasing shareholder value. That's their job in a publicly traded company. So what does that mean? Increased revenue or decreased expenses in the form of increased net income. So the CEO cares about anything that's related to the strategy or making money, growing the company. The CFO, by comparison, cares about the costs. So with the CFO, we're trying to find ways to show the cost-benefit analysis of this. The CIO, and to a certain degree, the CTO, are concerned with what kind of technology can they use to improve business performance. So when you talk to a CEO, a CIO, or a CTO, you have to imagine their job is to execute the CEO's vision through technology. I'm going to say it again. Their job is to find the technology that achieves the CEO's mission, which is increased sales or decreased expenses, hence increased profitability, or the strategy, a new customer experience, a new workflow, a new way to do business, and new business unit, all for the reasons of increasing shareholder value, which means top line revenue increases or bottom line net income increases. That's it. So now when it deals with the CIO or the CTO, you have to paint the picture of how the technology, of the architecture that you have, how does it impact the business? So for example, I've got a communications and collaboration technology that enables the business to find the right person when they need based upon expertise better, faster, and cheaper than they ever could before. Additionally, my new communications and collaboration platform enables me to have people anywhere in the world and play cards with them because it feels so real. It doesn't feel like Zoom, which I love. It feels like a complete and total being in the same room. That means your team can be spread out even further. And I love Zoom, by the way. But if it feels like you're in a life-size conference room, it also kind of feels like the person is next to you. So now if I've got some new communications and collaboration technology that enables the CEO to go visit more customers and help boost sales and see more of their people in all parts of the world and have better communication. And this communication and collaboration technology, for example, can connect my customers to my sales rep better. It can connect my production and marketing department and manufacturing department and supply chains together better so we can have less errors, increase production. Those would be the kind of things that I would talk about. Our technology system will enable your organization to increase profitability through X, Y, and Z. Specifically speaking, the communication and collaboration platform can do this, this, and this. With customers like this, we've seen a 32% increase in productivity, which typically works out to, for your average employee, $162,000 more output per employee. Additionally, what we've seen at the same time is as follows. We've also noticed we can decrease error defects by XYZ%, and therefore there's that. That's the way I approach a chief technology officer as an executive like them, showing them the impact of the technology that I did. Like, nobody buys technology because it's cool, except for maybe us, because we love it. Businesses don't want to spend money on technology. They buy it for the transformation. So we've got to talk about the transformation. Same thing with the chief security officer. They're an executive too. They're tasked with making sure the systems don't get hacked. Because if the systems get hacked, It causes brand damage. It causes profitability damage, and the systems aren't there to sell. So again, they're concerned about the same thing. How do we protect the organization? How do we protect the organization's people, processes, and technology? What is the cost of a security breach? What is the cost of brand damage if the security was breached? What are the people like in the organization? Do they need training? So for the chief security officer, you got to approach them the same way. Did you know the average security hack in a business like yours cost this? The likelihood of it occurring this year equals this, which means the expected value of an outage equals this. This technology that we have can mitigate this, and this. And therefore, by mitigating this, and this, we can typically say that the expected value of a hacking event versus the expected value of the expected return on investment from this, you're going to gain something by actually protecting your system. It's going to cost you less to protect your systems than it is to be exposed to the risk. Same thing, same practical modules, those kind of things. So all of these C-level executives are executives, which means you got to talk to them about business. And sometimes you got to ask them, or always you got to ask them about business. And with all those business things that they could tell you, they could say, look, in our industry, 2/3 of our competitors were hacked last year. In our industry, we have this. In our industry, we have this. In our industry, our regulations are this, and this. Guess what? I'd be asking about them. So it always comes down to a return on investment capital modeling. Granted, there's the sales process with the relationship, but it's all about how much transformation can the tech do. It's not about how cool is the tech. That's irrelevant. It's what kind of transformation can the tech do for the customer. Those are the kind of things you need to worry about, and that's what we talk about. So hope I answered your question there. Please feel free to ask more. Rob Thomas, yeah, people tend to pile on certs without knowing what they want to do. And that's the problem. So imagine going into an airplane, and you want an airplane pilot to fly the plane, and on it there it says nurse, doctor, he's got a badge, this is physical therapist, he's got a badge that says dog walker, he's got a badge that says massage therapist, another badge that says yoga instructor, another badge that says super fisherman, another badge. I mean, seriously, you see that and you're like, I don't want that guy flying my plane. I want her. She's been in the Navy, been flying planes for 30 years. I want her. That's all she's done. So yeah, the piling on certs can really destroy a career. Not just this. There's only a finite amount of time in the day. And everything that we learn that builds our career improves our career. Everything that we learn from somebody else's career is just waste. It serves no purpose. And there's only so much room in the proverbial hard drive. So the key is, what can we do to fix it? And how do we fix it? And why do we fix it? That's the information we need. And that's why piling on certs just doesn't do anything. It can do more damage than it can help. So yeah, I totally agree with you. People pile on the certs, and that's why we work really hard to advise against that. Grant, question. In order to do the labs for the program, do we need to study additional cert training from Udemy, etc.? Grant, we advise you to not touch any of that stuff ever. I work so hard to protect my students from all of that stuff. We produce our own training. Grant, I was retired. I was enjoying my retirement and doing some personal coaching. It was great. And then I saw the training that was out there. Here's what I saw. I took in this kid. He was the nicest kid. I really loved the kid. He was the son of my friend's father, the son of my close friend. So I really care about this kid. And my father and his father said to me, look, would you train my kid in cloud or networking or whatever the best thing is today? I know you've been training people forever. And I said, yes. So here's what I did. I bought him these 3 horrible, but they're best-selling, AWS certification courses. I told the kid's father I would coach him on actual architecture and how to be an architect, because I knew that was just certification, 2 to 4 hours every Friday. And on the 3rd day, the kid followed the plan. He takes the plan. He said, I set up an S3 bucket and configured an EC2 instance. Mike, what's that? And I said, it can't be possible. And I watched all these 3 courses in horror. And here it was the name of a service and how to configure it, which He wanted to be an architect, and architects don't configure. So it was completely irrelevant training. And that's why we decided to write a book on passing the AWS Certified Solution Architect Professional, and we gave it away for free. And that's why we do the AWS Certified Solution Architect Associate free. That's why we do the AWS Advanced Networking free. That's why we did the CCNA free. And that's why we're doing the Azure Solution Architect Expert Bootcamp this week free. Because it's not enough just to know the name of the service and how to configure it. We have to teach you what it is and why organizations use them. Otherwise, it's worthless knowledge. So no, Grant, you don't have to do anything outside of our program, and please don't. If you need instructions, you get them the way we do. If I need to look up something on AWS, where do I go? I go to the AWS website. I don't need somebody's watered down translation. If I need something from Cisco, I go to the Cisco website. I don't go to Udemy and see the person that may have partially or not partially interpreted the Cisco website. I go straight to the source. So no, please stay away from this Udemy stuff. Since you're on our program, we'd like to keep you and the quality that we know is going to get you hired. We've got very high standards for our student. We have very high standards for this. And Grant, I've had students that took a month or two to get certified and do that kind of training. When they came back, they were so lost. And I literally made them start back at the beginning of the training because we had to unlearn all those things and know just all what's inside of our program. And when you need to know more, go to the manufacturer's website. AWS has the best documentation on AWS. Azure has the best documentation on Azure. So we explain the tech, what it is, how it works, why an organization should use it. And then we still ourselves go straight to the manufacturer's documentation for everything we do. And here's why, Grant. First, they're the most authoritative source. Secondly, in addition to being the most authoritative source, things change. And the manufacturer's documentation is always the same. Best way I can describe it, Grant, I've practiced Krav Maga, and it's an Israeli martial art for 2 decades of my life. I learned it in the US, thought I was great. And then I was invited to train in Israel. And the Krav Maga that I learned in America and the Krav Maga that I learned in Israel was not the same. One was like the American interpretation. So I don't want you to get the AWS interpretation. I want you to go to the source. Why do I teach some Cisco stuff like the CCNA? Because I used to teach when I was at Cisco. I'd teach systems engineers at Cisco all the time. So I was a Cisco employee teaching Cisco stuff. Why do I do that stuff now? Because somebody had to take all the obfuscated information, all the silly names that nobody understands, and translate it into getting people and that's why our students get hired every day, because they know exactly what they need to know, and they communicate it in a way that is customer relevant, CXO relevant, and business relevant. So please, Grant, just stay everything in our program. It's all included. There's nothing else to buy, and you don't need to go anywhere else except for buying a practice test ready for certification exam. That way we know you're getting the good stuff. And that's why so many of our students get hired. Dingelman, you would like to do cloud architecture, but you're interested in security and well. Is there a job where these intersect? Dingelman, there is. There's the cloud security architect, where you do cloud architecture and security at the same time. Kind of like when I did network security architectures instead of just network architectures. It's all the same. So now that we know what you need, I'm going to tell you right now, the certifications will not get you any of these jobs. Now, certifications will help you get an interview. Certifications create what we call the illusion of competency. It's fake competency. It's not real. And the reason is, Dingelman, in certifications, they teach you the name of a service and how to configure that service. But what does an architect do? We design, present, and sell. So we've got this certification, which is, here's an S3 bucket and how to configure it. And the architect designs an end-to-end architecture using and presents it back to the customer and sells it to the customer. So it's a totally different set of skills. And I'm going to tell you what you need to learn. And I'll tell you what certifications will help you get an interview. But I'm going to tell you right now, you could get 10,000 certifications and no one will ever hire you as a cloud architect, because certifications don't get people hired for professional jobs. Admin jobs like the junior level help desk kind of stuff, yeah, certification will help with that. But professional jobs, no. Because professional, they need a body of knowledge. So here's what an architect does. Since we design, present, and sell, let's talk about what goes into design. What goes into design is as following. We have to take the stuff from the company's network and data center and migrate it to the cloud. So what is all of this stuff? That's networking and data center things. So these are the tech things that you need to know, and they're not covered in certification for the most part. The things you need to know are as follows. BGP, or Border Gateway Protocol, and it's an exterior gateway protocol used for routing. The next thing that you need to know are interior gateway protocols, such as intermediate systems to intermediate systems and OSPF. The next thing that you would need to know is IP addressing and subnetting and supernetting, etc. After that, you need to know some switching, which means VLANs, VLAN tagging, VLAN trunking, spanning tree, rapid spanning tree, etc. Then it means IP addressing, subnetting, supernetting, route aggregation. It also means NAT, and NAT just doesn't mean to connect to the internet, one-to-one NAT, one-to-many NAT, static NAT, dynamic NAT, PAT, etc. Those are on the networking side. You also need to have a good understanding of DNS, DHCP, ARP, proxy ARP, and you need to be good at like link bundling protocols such as Ether, channel, port, channel, link aggregation groups, etc. Now you also need to understand WAN technologies such as SSL-based VPNs, IPsec tunneling, software-defined networking, SASE, Ethernet over MPLS, private line architecture, etc. Then in the data center side, you're going to need to know servers and server virtualization, containers and container orchestration, all kinds of storage area networks, and not what they teach in like these silly certifications like a certified solution architect professional. That's too basic. I mean, go to Dell EMC and read a good 1,000 pages on block storage, object storage, file storage, or take our course, which covers all these things. Then you need to know about databases and when to use a relational database and how to scale a relational database versus when to use a NoSQL database, etc. And know when you can't use the proprietary cloud ones. Then, realistically speaking, you need to know about firewalls. And for security, you definitely need to know a lot about here. Firewalls, next generation firewalls, IDS, IPS systems, VPN concentrators, etc. All that kind of stuff is there. Security policy, for example, security training, anti-malware kind of preventions, systems, host-based firewalls, host-based IDSs, encryption technologies you're going to need to know for any of these careers, but especially cloud security. Now that's the tech piece. Now the certifications that are going to match this, which again won't teach any of this, are the CISSP. Don't waste your time on any AWS Advanced Security or Security Plus. Go straight to the CISSP or the CCSP. And if you don't have 5 years, you can still take the exam. They'll just call you an associate, and after 5 years, you get automatically upgraded to professional, but everybody knows you passed the exam. I don't care. So there's that. And the Certified Solution Architect Professional, which is really in a very junior level, entry-level certification. Those two would be the cert. But again, that's going to get somebody an interview, but not hired. Learning those things, which I told you about, which are about 20,000 pages of reading, or it's covered in our course, that's what gets you hired. Now, next, you have to remember the job is design, present, ourselves. So this is not where people do not want engineers to be their architects. They want business executives. So you must learn how to present, because you'll be presenting in audiences upwards of 5,000 people all the time as an architect. You must learn how to sell to executives, how to sell to regular people. You must learn CXO relevancy. You must know what to say to the CEO versus CTO versus CFO versus the CIO, etc. So next, after that, you must know executive communication skills, because they're, again, something very different. And the next thing you're going to need to know is business acumen, because you're going to have to do some ROI modeling. You're going to have to know how to read a financial statement, a balance sheet, etc. You're going to learn to have to negotiate, because you're going to be doing it constantly. And those are the skills. And yes, you can get these great cloud security architect jobs. I've helped people get them forever. But those are the skills that you need. Now, you can buy them, learn them on your own. You could take our course. Our course is going to be a lot cheaper, because if you take a good presentations training class, that's going to be $5,000 for the week. A good executive presence course will be $5,000 for the week. A good emotional intelligence course, which we would teach, would be a couple $1,000s for the week. The leadership skills, etc. So to get this on your own, realistically, is about a $50,000 cost for the leadership skills for the architect. And that's why we took a $50,000 course and made it less than $1,000, because I don't need to work. I just wanted everybody to get hired. And that's why architects get hired every single day. Kind of keep that in the back of your mind. But those are the skills you need to do. Don't get on the certification treadmill. I'm going to get certified. I'm going to get it certified. I'm going to get it certified. Because this is an executive position. And too many certifications doesn't get somebody hired for these. In fact, very frequently, I get students that come to me that are 6x AWS certified, and nobody's willing to hire them. And we train them, and they go on a couple interviews, and here's the thing. They're still getting hammered based on these silly little DevOps and SysOps certifications they have. And then we remove certain certifications from people's cloud architect resume, and they get hired overnight. And that's the thing. It's about building a brand. And you want your brand to look perfect. Usain Bolt looks like the world's fastest man, doesn't he? Because he is. He looks that way because he trains the way. If he trained to be a yogi, and I'm a yogi, he'd not be the world's fastest man. He'd be a yogi. And he wouldn't look like the world's fastest man either. So those are the kind of things that I like to keep in mind. You know, build the brand. Make everything your goal. Your time, your effort, your money, your studying, your life, all on that thing you want most. And you'll go achieve it. You can do anything you want. But it takes alignment of everything with a laser-like focus to get to your goals. And you can do it. And it'll be fantastic, and I want you to get there. So I hope I answered your question. If you'd like to work with us, we'd love to work with you, but you know how to do it on your own too. And in either case, you can learn these things. Still working towards your goal. You owe your grandfather and you to be successful. I'm thrilled that I can do anything I can to help you. Your grandfather must be one heck of a great guy because you are impressive. Trying to find a way because you're in Africa, and there's not much there that your parents can afford except for you going to college. So, Dylan Bell, next week. This week, make sure you join our, what do you call it? Our Azure Solution Architect Expert Bootcamp. Now, guess what, Dylan Bell? Me and my company are part of a really good group called Cloud Heroes Africa. It's run by my friend Alphonse Shang. And there's 50 people from Go Cloud Careers that actually volunteer in this organization to try and help others in Africa actually get ahead. It's completely for free. So look up Cloud Heroes Africa, Dylan. My good friend Alphonse Shang runs it. We speak constantly. And I can't say anything but wonderful things. His students, all of them, are going to be at my boot camp this week. So please join us for this boot camp this week. And give my friend a call and keep coming and watching our videos. You know, Dylan, there's people that actually get hired just from watching our videos, our interview videos, and our YouTube videos, and they tell us all the time. So keep coming to every one of these things that you can. I love having you here. I knew you were 16, but I had no idea that you were 16 in Africa paying attention. I just knew you were 16 and working hard to become something special. So congratulations, Dylan. Come as often as you want. I like seeing you here every single day. Hope to see much, much more of you, and I hope to see you getting to your goals real soon. Past your solution architect, okay, that's really good. Ready to look for a job, okay. There's a difference between certification and getting you hired, but that's a very good start. However, there's no doubt you have done the right cloud. I have not done any cloud. I want to know where I'm going after this program. So if you're with us and you're training with us after this program, you should have your first job because that's what we do. We get people hired every day that have never done anything in tech before. But certification about itself is not going to be enough. Train with us, train on your own. It's a matter of learning networking, learning BGP, learning IP addressing and subnetting, but it's really about learning how to design. See, these certifications are how to configure, but we design. So certifications are the name of the service and how to do it. For us, we don't care about how to do any of it because we don't do that. It's how it works. So there's that. But you didn't tell me which actual job you actually want. So maybe, like if you're looking to be a cloud admin, that certification is appropriate to get you to start. It won't be sufficient if you want to be a cloud engineer, or it won't be sufficient if you want to be a cloud architect. So I'm not sure I completely understand your questions, wanting to know what you're getting after the program. If you're one of our students, you should be hired in the end of the program. And if you took the cloud engineering course, you should be hired as a cloud engineer. And if you took our cloud architect course, you should be getting hired as an architect when you're done. But I may be missing more of this question or only seeing part of the question. So if that's the case, there's that. But certification is not really, we need to know what you need to do after certification to get a job. So if you tell me the job you like, I can tell you how to get there. But the certified solution architect professional in and of itself isn't really enough for any job. So tell me exactly what you'd like to do, and I can tell you how to leverage that certification and the things to learn to help you get there. Unless you're one of ours, in which case we'll get you there, because that's what we do. Yosef Tefera, how do you get hands-on project for AWS? Yosef, I need to know what goal is your career, because hands-on projects for architects, like playing with Linux and Python and CloudFormation, don't make them get hired at all. Likewise, a cloud architect that designs a cloud and potentially builds a cloud works good for them. So Yosef, what are you trying to achieve? Because hands-on experience is 10 different things. For example, a hands-on experience to an electrician is different than hands-on experience to a bricklayer. That's different to hands-on experience than someone that works with lighting. That's different than hands-on experience to someone that works in security. That's different hands-on experience than someone that's doing flooring. And the key is there's hundreds of jobs, Yosef, that we actually do in tech. And hands-on experience doesn't mean anything if we don't put it into context. So, you know where I have a lot of hands-on experience? I'll tell you right now, in internal medicine. Somebody gets a cut and I need to stitch them up. I got lots of hands-on experience there. Somebody comes in and they're having chest pain and I put a 12-lead EKG on and I can read that 12-lead EKG. I can check their cardiac enzymes. I can read their chest x-ray. That's hands-on experience, right? It is. Is it relevant? No, because in my medical days, that's relevant, but in my cloud days, it's not. But somebody could be doing some data science work on the cloud, and that would be very relevant practical hands-on experience for a data scientist. But it wouldn't be for a maintenance person like cloud systems. Likewise, a DevOps engineer would have to do some software development and DevOps tools, which would be relevant experience for them. Now, a cloud engineer, relevant experience might be setting up S3 buckets and setting up IAM and federating identity things and doing some Linux and coding some things and some Python and some Terraform. So the key is which career you want to go. Because otherwise, it's kind of like you just saying, Mike, which airplane do I get on? And I say, there's 500 in the airport. And you say, but which one's the right one? And I say, I don't know. Do you want to go to Dubai? If so, take Emirates Air. Do you want to go to London? Take British Airways. Do you want to go to Greece? Take Olympic Airlines. But you got to know where you want to go before you want to get there. So I can happily tell you what to do, but it's going to be career dependent. Kind of goes back to the thing that I said in the beginning. We don't just want you to just do stuff, because you could be circling around for years just doing stuff. We want you to do the correct stuff so we can get you from point A to point B really, really fast. Let us know what you want to do, and we'll help you. Chris, bring in something else. And hopefully we get an answer. EZO. Hello, thanks for doing this live. You want to change your current career, your goal solution architect. Please advise the best roadmap for someone who's a novice and how long it may take to get a job. Okay, EZO, I'll give you two ways to do it. The quickest, cheapest, and fastest way is to take our Cloud Architect Career Development Program. And in about 8 to 12 months, you should be working as a cloud architect like the rest of our students. That would be the best way. Two is, if you're not with us, here's what you could do. You can learn BGP, and not how to configure it, how to design it. OSPF, IP addressing, subnetting, and supernetting. Switching, which means VLANs, VLAN tagging, spanning tree, rapid spanning tree, etc. And how to architect it, not how to configure it. WAN technologies, SSL-based VPNs, IPsec-based VPNs, let's say private lines, Ethernet private lines, Ethernet over MPLS, for example. Software-defined networking, SASE. And then because we're dealing with VLANs and tagging, we're going to be dealing with loop redundancy. So you've got to learn spanning tree and rapid spanning tree. And then when you're done that, you should learn DNS, ARP, proxy ARP, etc. Then you got to learn NAT. And NAT is not just going to the internet. There's not when one business buys another business. There's not static NAT. which you use lots of times, things like load balancers. There's dynamic not overload. You got to learn all those things. So that's basically most of the things that you need to know on the networking side. On the data side, you need to know servers and server virtualization. And guess what? You can get that from a few hundred pages from VMware if you're not with us. Then you need to know containers and container orchestration. Again, a few hundred pages from VMware, from Docker, Kubernetes, you can learn that. Then you need to learn storage, block storage, object storage, and file storage. Not how to configure it, but how to architect it. We train that in our course. But if you're not with us, go to Dale EMC, 500,000 pages, and you're going to get those storage area network things. Databases, you need to know databases, relational databases, NoSQL databases, how to architect them, how to scale them. And guess what? You can learn a lot about them on the MySQL website, on the Oracle website, on the Microsoft SQL website. Again, 1,000 pages or so. If you're not with us, you'll be good to go. Then learn a little bit about MongoDB and Apache Cassandra, because we're going to use those. Now realize all these jobs require multi-cloud, so you're going to need to know all these things in the tech, not just the cloud. But that's neither here nor there. So then you should need to understand DNS and DHCP, and then you need to understand load balancers, network load balancers, application load balancers. A little knowledge of APIs would be good as well. You need to know business applications such as CRM applications, ERP applications, voice over IP, and unified communications and how they can impact the business, because those are going to be the tools you're going to be working with. Now, because the architect is a cross between an executive and a business, and nobody hands us things that say, make this. What we do is we go to the customer, we ask the customer, tell me about your business goals, your business pain points, and your business challenges. And after the customer tells us that, we develop an architecture. We'll bring in and manage a team of 50 engineers that'll baseline the organization system. We'll go back, we'll build a team. We'll get some cloud architects, some cloud security architects, some cloud IAM architects, some cloud big data architects, some engineers and DevOps engineers. Oh, we're going to get them in a room. We're going to work together and create a design. Then as the architect, we're going to write up the design, draw pictures of the design, and we're going to go present it back to the customer. The customer is going to give us some feedback. We're going to go back to our team. We're going to redesign it. And guess what we're going to do then? After that, we're going to go present it back to the customer. Now we're going to go through a series of negotiations. Once we sell it, we're out of there, and it's off to a team of cloud engineers to go build it. So this means you need to learn how to sell. And if we teach it, but if you're not with us, you need to take some sales training. It'll be a few $1,000s, because you've got to learn how to sell. And that includes ROI modeling and selling to executives, et cetera, because we sell to executives. Engineers don't have the budget to buy our $200 million architecture. So we've got to go to the top. Then we're going to be presenting to CEOs, to engineers, to architects at industry conferences. So you're going to need some serious presentation skills training. We train it, but if you're on your own, get it. You can get it, but it's not going to be cheap. You're going to have some CXO relevancy training, because if you don't know what they say to the CEO, the CIO, or CTO on your interview, you get fired and your replacement thanks you for the job. So you need to be CXO relevant. I've seen it happen in the past. We provide a lot of CXO relevancy training. You don't have to get it from us. You can buy it, but it's going to be $5,000 to $10,000 for good CXO relevancy training, but you need it for the job. Just make sure you get it either way. I don't care. I just want you getting hired. When you're done that, you're going to have to learn executive writing, which is different than the kind of writing we learned in our MBA programs. So again, you're going to have to learn that. Now, if you've ever done ROI modeling or calculated the expected value of an opportunity, et cetera, you're going to have to do that. We teach that in our course, but make sure you're there. And you're also going to need to know how to negotiate, because that's part of the sales process, which again, we teach. But if you're not with us, guess what? The Harvard Negotiation Project does some good things. Chris Voss does some good things. We use a combination of the two. And you're going to need to have a lot of leadership and executive presence training, because first, to be taken seriously, and also you're going to be leading large teams that don't work for you. So you're going to have to be able to command a room. Those are the things that you need to do to become a cloud architect or a solution architect. And I got to tell you, it's the best job ever. I've been one for 25 years now. I left engineering, which was hard work, which I loved, became an architect, and literally speaking, it was just travel to places, talk to people, entertain clients with company credit cards. It was a great job, but that's really the job. And that's why it's so much executive, et cetera, et cetera. And in our program, it would take you 8 months to 12 months. You could do this on your own. Realistically speaking, without us taking, which what we kind of do is boil the ocean down to, you only need to know this and nothing else. It'll take you a few years on your own. But the reason we created our accelerated program is this: the average cloud architect earns $600 a day. A good one earns double that easily. So if we can get somebody hired 2 years, be faster than they could on their own, that's $300,000 return on investment for less than $1,000 course. My team will be bringing questions in and out of order to make sure we get to them in the most complete sort of manner. Rob Thomas, is there a guarantee of getting hired after completing your program? Rob, I will guarantee it under the following circumstances. If you allow me to put a security guard into your house that can watch and make sure you do all 500 hours of our training and do all the labs, and you're willing to pay for the security guard, I will give you a guarantee. But see, here's the thing, Rob. I can't guarantee that you do the work. I can't guarantee that you listen to me. So I have no ability to guarantee you. So if you want us to guarantee you, if you pay for the security guard and we can put a 24-hour day camera to see that you're studying, we will happily guarantee it because our students do wonderfully the DOOR project. But the thing is, I don't know if you're going to do the work. I have no guarantee of that. And, somebody at one point did offer me, call me up, one of my students, and they say, Mike, I don't get it. I put your thing next to my head when I go to sleep and I press play and I'm not learning anything. And I said, that's not the way you learn. And, there are organizations that do guarantee it. They charge at least 35 times more than we do. And they don't count any job. They count any job that you could possibly get. So that's the thing. We decided to take a program that was worth $50,000 and say, we're going to give it to everyone. Literally speaking, everyone. And anybody that wants to do the program will get hired. You could just look at a stack of the Cloud Hired videos that we have, and all these people, most of them had no background. But also there's people that buy the course. I had somebody that offered me $25,000 for a reference. I laughed at him. I said, that would violate my ethics. He said, I just want to say I work for Go Cloud Careers. I said, get out of here. So that's the key, is I can't guarantee that anybody does the work. But if you do the work, you should be successful. We don't kick anybody out in 16 weeks and say, hey, your 16 weeks are up. I've got people that need to be there for 11 months. And we don't care. We let you stay for a full year until you're hired. Because that's all I want, is to make sure you get hired. So that's the best I can do. I can't guarantee what other people do. If I charged enough, I could implement little security checks on my people to make sure they're doing the work. But I think I can take a $50,000 course, sell it for $700 on sale, which is a single day's pay for the average cloud architect. And there's people that are not going to take it seriously because they didn't pay a lot and they're not going to do well. And the people that are going to take it and say, I only paid $700, but it's a $50,000 course. And it's worth more than that, actually, if you were to actually buy the things on your own. And my peers from Cisco and others are like, why aren't you charging $50,000? I say, because I don't want to sell it to the people that are already rich. I want to give everybody a shot. So everybody gets a chance. It's up to you to do the work. And Rob, I hope you come. I hope you do the work. And I hope that we can say Cloud Hired, and we can make another video of you, just like the 21-year-old we're going to have tomorrow. Ryan, thank you so much to say I'm so underrated. I work very hard to help others. Just something I love. I love when people get hired. Economy, you argue today that it's safer to secure your application on the cloud versus in-premise because cloud providers have more security than the average company. Is this correct? Absolutely not. It is much easier for me to make a much higher security environment in the data center. The cloud is never going to be as secure because it can't be as secure. So here's the thing. In my data center, if I wanted to implement physical security and hire Navy SEAL snipers to be on the roof, I could do it. In my data center, I could have 40 feet thick steel if I wanted to, which I can't do in the cloud provider. In my data center, I can do layer 2 authentication like 802.1x, QoS on my networks to make sure that if a worm were to go on, the worm couldn't even propagate through my systems. I can implement a layer of security in a data center that's just not possible on the cloud because the cloud's a shared network. And guess what, economy? Who are you going to hack? My cat Cindy has a website. She's really cute. She's got little videos of her licking her hands, doing her grooming, catching lizards and stuff, giggling on the back. That's my cat Cindy's website. Now, if I hack into AWS, I get the information from thousands and thousands of customers. I just hacked the entire internet. You hack my cat Cindy's website, you get pictures of Cindy. So the cloud is the biggest high-value target in the world. So no, the cloud is not more secure. The cloud is a very secure, very modern network, but it has more attack vectors than this. In the cloud, if the control plane gets hacked, you can get hacked. If the network gets hacked, you can get hacked. And if the cloud gets hacked, you can get hacked. In your data center, nobody's hacking your control plane unless you made a cloud yourself, so it's more secure. In your data center, you can implement physical security to the nth degree, layer 2 network security, and things you couldn't possibly do in the cloud. So no, it's less secure in the cloud. Now, having said that, for the average user that came from a 30-year-old data center that's not been modernized, the cloud is more secure. But a modern data center is always going to be more secure than the cloud if the modern data center people want to put it there, because you can do more. On the cloud, they have to keep certain things generic, which means you can't do some of the best security things, because they can't do it because they don't know what the traffic pattern is going to be like. You may know your traffic pattern. You may know that voice is critical to you. This second trading application is most critical. This other business application is there, and then drop everything else if there's contention like a worm. Cloud provider can't do that. Why can't they do it? They don't know what your traffic is versus your customer's traffic, and they can't police it. So no, it's definitely less secure in the cloud than your data center. And it's interesting because when I initially get this, it's like the certified people, you can always tell, because they always tell everybody, the cloud's secure, the cloud's secure, the cloud's secure. When you speak to that CISO, they're like, is this really more secure? And you say this, and this is like, okay, that's what I was assuming. It didn't feel right. It felt like marketing speak to me. So the good news is it's probably okay, because lots of people have been taught this, and most people truly don't understand security. And for people that don't understand security, it's safer to be on the cloud because there's less to do in the cloud and more of it's taken care of. Now, economy, I've never worked on anybody that didn't care about security. I worked for big banks and things like that. So, they could be more secure than the cloud. But most people, the cloud is inherent. The cloud is pretty good. Hope I answered your question there. Beb's website or place to take practice tests? I don't care. I think there are a million of them out there. They're all the same. Review and Prep actually has some very good tests for the Certified Solution Architect Associate. I really do like that. For example, as far as the rest of it, there's just so many of them out there. I don't really care which one you use. But again, for us, certifications are the least thing that we care about. Getting hired is the biggest thing that we care about. So just do a Google search. Take 2 or 3. Doesn't even matter which one. Take 2 or 3. When you get to 95% on each one, you're ready to take the exam. And then when you're done, when the exam's done and the certification's gone, focus on all the stuff necessary for your job, which is not covered in certification. So kind of keep that. Kenji, you have training on website development. That's interesting, but you hate doing freelance work. How can you become an architect? Well, Kenji, we don't do any web development and cloud architect work. So kind of keep that in the back of your mind. So the cloud architect is a network and data center architect. So if you want to be a cloud architect, you need to learn the following: BGP, OSPF, IP addressing, subnetting, and supernetting. Switching, VLANs, VLAN tagging, VLAN trunking, spanning tree, rapid spanning tree. WAN protocols such as SSL VPNs, IPsec tunneling, Ethernet over MPLS, Ethernet private lines, serial private lines, software-defined networking, SASE, DNS, DHCP, ARP, proxy ARP, those kinds of things, port channel, ether channel, link aggregation groups, etc. Then you need to know servers and server virtualization and containers and container orchestration, block storage, object storage, file storage, SQL databases and when to use them and how to architect them and how to scale them, no SQL databases and how to use them and when to use them and how to scale those kind of things. For example, and then there are load balancers and when to use a network load balancer versus an application load balancer, how to stack your load balancers, etc., how to pre-warm your load balancers. And then the business applications you need, such as ERP systems, CRM systems, communications, collaboration platforms. And then you have to be familiar with business processes, work processes, etc., etc. Then you need to learn how to present, because you're going to be giving presentations. You're going to be doing lots of sales. You've got to learn how to do a lot of sales. You're going to have to be leading large teams. You're going to have to be leading things. You're going to be writing articles and thought leadership papers. You're going to have to learn to write like an executive. You're going to have to negotiate deals upwards of $1 billion. You're going to need some serious $1 billion negotiation skills. You're going to need some CXO relevancy training. Those are the skills that you need to do to become an architect. The good news is we don't code, so you don't have to worry about coding anything. We don't configure. We don't have to worry about touching the technology either. But we design. And what do we design? To design, we need to know how things work and why they work, not how to do them like the configuration piece. And you can become an architect, Kanji. You really can, and it's the best job ever, and I encourage you to do it. Vijay, React.js has nothing to do with cloud architecture at all. So Vijay, what you have to learn is all those things that you need to do. Fastest way to become a cloud architect would be to take our program. But React.js is nothing. We design, present, and sell. That's you're talking tech. We're talking digital transformation. So it's a new set of skills to learn. You could take our program and learn it, or you could just take the things that I just told the last person that wanted to become a cloud architect. But we're more network and data center technologies, because what's the cloud? A virtual network and a data center, right? We are not software engineers. We're not programmers in any way, shape, or form. Cloud engineers do some coding. DevOps engineers do some coding, but not us. We are systems designers. So Chris, you can move on to the next question. You're a full stack developer with 2.5 years experience. How do you switch to a cloud engineer or a cloud architect? In either case, you need training. The web development has nothing to do with what we do at all. So there's really two paths for you. There's the cloud architect who designs, presents, and sells, and the cloud engineer who builds. So think of it this way. You got a building architect. Let's say I want to build a 1,000-meter tall hotel. I call an architect and I say, I want a big pointy thing on the top. I want a beautiful waterfalls, and I want it to look like this. So first we'll go into the architect, and then we'll go to the engineer. The architect is the person that designs the big, beautiful hotel. Now, the architect does not hammer nails. They don't use drills. They don't use a saw. They don't touch it. They hire a construction crew. So the architect, that's the job. Design, present, and sell. The engineer is the builder. So in either case, to become a cloud architect or a cloud engineer, you need to know what you're working with, which is network and data center technologies. So that means either career really needs to know BGP and OSPF and IP addressing and subnetting and supernetting and VLANs and VLAN tagging and VLAN trunking and switching. Now, the cloud architect's going to be designing this stuff, and the cloud engineer may configure this stuff, but they still need to know it. NAT, one-to-one NAT, one-to-many NAT, how to subnet a network, how to supernet a network, how to do some route aggregation, etc. So there's that. There's DNS, DHCP, ARP, proxy ARP. This is common knowledge between the architects and the engineers. Now, next, both architects and engineers will need to know about servers and server virtualization and containers and container orchestration and load balancers and DNS and databases such as NoSQL databases versus relational databases. They're both going to need to know about business processes, but they're also going to need to know about things like storage and other things. Now, that's where the architect and the engineers things are similar. Now, everything changes here. Now, the architect, in addition to these skills, will need to know how to sell. They need to know how to design. They need to learn how to negotiate. They need to learn how to be CXO relevant. They need to lead, etc. They need to write like an executive and present. And those are the skills that the architect needs. Those network and data center design skills, because the cloud is nothing more than a network and a data center that's been virtualized. So there's that. So the architect needs that, plus all those leadership and businessy things, because the architect's an executive. Now, the engineer is not an executive. The engineer is the person that builds this stuff that the architect designed. So the engineer is the construction crew. Now, the engineer, because they're a construction crew, will need to be building stuff. So they're going to have to know how to configure the stuff on multiple clouds. And then they're going to have good knowledge of Linux and Linux administration. good knowledge of scripting, like Bash scripting, good knowledge of Python scripting, and good knowledge of infrastructure as code, like Terraform. So we've got the architect that designs, presents, and sells. The architect doesn't code. The architect doesn't configure. The architect doesn't get involved in infrastructure as code. The architect sells. The engineer builds. And that's why those skills are so different. So that's how you switch. First is you determine whether you want to be an architect or an engineer. And if you want to be an architect, you study to be an architect. And if you want to be an engineer, you study to be an engineer. Realize this. If you study to be an engineer, it's going to make it hard for you to become an architect because it's a different job. If you study to be an architect, it's not going to make you a good engineer because it's a different job. So it's much, much, much safer for you and smarter for you to determine which job you want, because that way you don't spend 3 to 5 years getting to nowhere. So I hope I answered your question on that. And please ask some questions. We want to help you get hired. We want to help you build the career of your dreams. Yes, listen to what Mike is saying on certs. I wish it wasn't the case. I have to remove certifications so many times from people's resumes to get them hired. And I hate to see people spend their time and effort and money. You know, the average cloud architect earns $600 a day and a good one earns double that. So if someone spends 6 months on wasted certifications, that's $80,000 of lost money. Just gone. That could have been earned when people are wasting time on certifications. So guess what? Certifications also don't raise your salary. Did you know, statistically speaking, up to a point, certifications could raise your salary up to $10,000 to a point, and then it maxes out. Did you know on average, people that train soft skills earn 30% more, and people that train emotional intelligence earn $29,600 more? So think about an architect job, 30% above the average is $55,000 a year just for soft skills. Add emotional intelligence, add another 30, so you're dealing with like $80,000 a year. Over the course of 30 years, that's $2.5 million plus by studying the right things and not wasting your time on certification. And so that's why we implore you to take best care of yourself. Hi, Mike. I want to start with networking, but your problem with the CCNA is it's a vendor cert and I think you won't need some of the topics like cabled and a wired thing. Mohammed, here's the thing. Cisco and Juniper certifications, believe it or not, are the most vendor neutral certs I've ever seen. And here's why. Everything that Cisco and Juniper makes, except for EIGRP, etc., for the example, is as follows. It's all the same. BGP, the algorithm, is the same on Cisco and Juniper. OSPF, the algorithm, is the same for the most part on Cisco and Juniper. They're industry standard protocols. So I would recommend that you do the CCNA one. Now, it is a vendor cert, and there's going to be a lot of stuff on that CCNA that is irrelevant. But the cloud is still a network and a data center, and certifications are, in my mind, garbage. Why do we do certifications at all? They create the illusion. It's fake competency on a resume. What's the whole point of a resume? Getting somebody to bring you in. So if we do a certification and it creates some kind of thing that makes the employer say, I'd like to talk to the person, we know the certification gets nobody hired ever. But it does bring the person in for an interview. And you can take the AWS Advanced Networking thing, which is 200 pages and nothing. You could take the CCNA, which is 2,000 pages and something. And you could say, hey, I've got this, the Certified Solution Architect Professional. Now, together, neither one of that amounts to anything. But if you have the knowledge, those two certifications together will get you an interview. And when you're brand new, and you have no experience, and you've gotten degrees in tech, anything that gets you that interview is great. Now, what gets you hired is the stuff you need to know, your attitudes, your energy, enthusiasm. So we use it only to get an interview. And that's the purpose of certifications for us, just an interview. They don't raise the salary, they don't get somebody hired, they don't get them promoted, but they get an interview. And we love that. And then with our combination of competency training, interview training, sales training, leadership training, emotional intelligence training, executive presence training, then our people get hired. But yeah, most of what's going to be on most of these certifications is irrelevant, and here's why. The only architecture certification out there right now is the Cisco Certified Design Expert. To some degree, TOGAF, but even that is too fluffy. Nobody knows what it means. I spent a life translating architectures that were made in TOGAF style and then translating it to the customers because they didn't know what it meant. Not that there's anything wrong with TOGAF. It's just that there's really not much to certifications other than name of a service, how to configure it. So you were just using it, Muhammad, just to get an interview. Beyond that, there's really no point. Nobody hires anybody based on certifications, but they do bring you in for an interview, so we like that. And truth be told, probably good to know how Ethernet cables work. Now, I've never made an Ethernet cable in my life because I've been a network architect, not an engineer. And even when I got my first engineer job, I was a senior network engineer, and they allow the cabling to the junior people, and I never had a junior engineering job in my life. I went straight to a senior engineer, so I've never made a network cable. But knowing when to use single mode fiber versus multi-mode and what those optics are would be a good thing. And there's a lot of good stuff in there. There's even some good cloud networking things in there. Better in the CCNA than in the AWS Advanced Networking. So I'd still recommend it. And our course is completely free. So it gives you free training, free certification. Read the Wendell Odom book from Cisco. That'll make you much better, whatever cloud career you want to do anyway. Because there's a lot of networking concepts too. There's what you need to learn, how stuff works, not how to do it. Great question, Mohammed. Right now, there's a 30% discount off of all our products. Just use coupon code POTENTIAL. And hi, Mike. You got into the I field as an on-premise database administrator. Most of your past was an elementary school teacher. Oh, that's wonderful. How would one transition to being a cloud architect? Well, Leon, I'm going to tell you something. Your elementary school teacher is going to be much, much, much more valuable than the database administrator piece, and I'll tell you why. So as an elementary school teacher, you had to do a fair amount of communication, which I love. Kids aren't always happy, so there were some leadership things. Some of the kids have crazy family members, and you needed to lead the family members, had to be emotionally intelligent, and you had to present complex concepts and make people understand them. So that, Leon, is awesome. Awesome, awesome, awesome. That is a good background that will help you in your architecture career. Now, we don't administer anything as an architect, so database administration thing isn't going to be too helpful. But let's pull out the things that are out of it. You do know what is a relational database, which is good. You probably understand caching and queuing systems that would be implemented, for example. You also probably understand about read replicas. So that is going to be helpful, the knowledge of how to do that. Now, you probably also had to deal with something called authentication, authorization, accounting, or identity and access management. Who was allowed to use what in the database? You potentially worked with some service accounts, and you said MS database, but maybe you work with some Linux systems as well. So there's that. Now remember, the architect is a systems designer, and what do we design? Network and data center stuff, and that's the key. So many people are trying to learn the cloud, but no, you got to learn the network and the data center, and here's why. What do? We take the servers from the data center and move them to virtual machines in the cloud. We take the containers in the data center and move them to the containers in the cloud. We take the DNS servers in the data center and migrate them to DNS servers in the cloud. We take, sorry, I spilled some water on me. We take the firewalls in the data center and exchange them for firewalls in the cloud. The load balancers in the data center lose it. The object storage in the data center, the object storage in the cloud. So we're lifting mostly. Or we're re-architecting, but what are we architecting? It's network and data center stuff. So the key is for this role, you have to remember it's a hybrid business executive and technology professional. So we don't touch the tech. So one of the things you're going to have to do is do a rebrand. See, administrators have that engineering feel, and nobody wants an engineer as an architect because they want to feel like you're a leader, not a techie. So the good news is that elementary skill teacher probably gave you some excellent communication skills, which are going to be very helpful. So on your resume, you're going to have to do the following. Anytime you talk about tech, kill it. Change the tech to the transformation. Did not configure this thing, do this database thing, change this table thing. Oh, no. Architects are transformation specialists. So if you'd installed a new database or designed a new database or worked with a new database, Did the database improve business performance by 11%? Did the database have 4% less outages? What is the impact of the tech to your business? You're going to need to modify that. And we need to modify your brand so it goes from a person that knew how to do stuff to a person that knows what the stuff can do for the business, because there's that. Now, next are the things you need to learn, which include BGP, OSPF, subnetting, supernetting, route aggregation, route summarization, etc. NAT, one-to-one NAT, one-to-many NAT, static NAT, dynamic NAT, HAT, VLAN, VLAN tagging, VLAN trunking, spanning tree, route path spanning tree, etc. WAN technologies, IPsec tunnels, SSL-based tunnels, Ethernet over MPLS, Ethernet private lines, serial lines, software-defined networking SASE, ARP, proxy, ARP, DNS, DHCP, clear channel, ether channel, link aggregation, that kind of stuff. Then on the data center side, virtual machines and virtual machine orchestrations and containers and container orchestrations, etc. Block storage, object storage, file storage, load balancers, when to use them, how to architect them, how to stack them in your architectures, when to bring in ERP systems, CRM systems, how to be tuning supply chain systems, unified communications, etc., etc. Those are the kind of things that you need to learn. And then, remember, it's a job of design, present, and sell. So you're going to have to learn system design. You're going to be loving lots of presentations, so there's going to be a way to do that. It's going to be executive communication skills. So you're going to have to learn them, which are different than regular communication skills. You have to learn to be CXO relevant, like what to say to the CEO versus the CFO versus the CTO. You learn how to negotiate. You need to learn how to do an ROI model. Now, I teach all those things in our Cloud Architect Career Development Program, and that's why our students get hired. Those are the things you need to learn. You could learn them all in our Cloud Architect Career Development Program. You could get half in an MBA program. You could have in some networking things, some data center things, some leadership things. There's lots of ways to get it, but those are the skills that you need to do to transition to a cloud architect. Do that, and you will have the best job you can imagine. It's just an incredible job. Love it, love it, love it, and I've had it for 25 years. But it's not this techie thing that people think it is. It's a hybrid executive/technology professional job. Rana, good evening, sir. I know this question is not to take part here, but is really important for me because nobody gave you an answer to this kind of question. Sir, is it IMP to activation of the IMP before the exam? I don't even understand what this question is, Rana. Please re-ask it. Use no abbreviations, and make sure all the words are actually full words, because I have no idea what you're even asking here. So Chris, please go to the next session. Economy, you're more than welcome. I just want to help you get to your goals. Kenji, you're so welcome. I am so happy to help you. I just want all you guys to get that cloud architect job, solution architect job, enterprise architect, and please ask your questions. I can be here for about 45 more minutes today, and I want to help as many people as possible. Mitson, how many classes in a week for the Cloud Architect program? Well, we have 3 live classes per week that are each 2 hours in length. And in between live classes, now we record these live classes because not everyone can attend one. In between each live class, there is lots to be done. There are homework assignments, presentations, labs, architectures, all kinds of good stuff. Students do a project, they watch a video or do a lesson, they do a project, they turn it into Slack, and we give them feedback. So it's just like a real class, because you can't just watch videos and learn on your own. You know, you watch something, you turn it into an assignment, we check, we do architectures and clusters together. And then we've got a lab component. Now, everybody does what I call the AWS labs and the Azure labs. Look, we do them. You do about 50 of them. But employers are going to see experience in your resume, so we generate labs that employers will count as experience. Our students will VPN into our data center and they'll set up server virtualization and can build up their own containers and container orchestration. Our students will build firewalls. Our students will build VPN concentrators. Our students will set up file sharing in Linux and file sharing in Windows. Our students will set up like the Linux, Apache, MySQL, PHP web stacks. Our students will set up Active Directory servers, and our students all build their own cloud. I don't have a single student that couldn't build AWS from scratch or Azure from scratch or Google from scratch. All my students build a cloud. And here's why. When somebody's got no experience, who do you want? The person that's got some certifications or a person that can design and build the cloud? And I don't mean a VPC, I mean build the cloud. All my students do it. See, you have to prove competency, and that's just one of the ways we do it. But it's not just that. We use a certain set of labs and things because what all hiring managers want in the perfect employee. I got to tell you, I've asked about, well, I can't tell you how many thousand I've asked because it's been too many. But, they all tell you, I want someone that is the following: technically competent, energetic, enthusiastic, honest, and trustworthy, knows what they know and knows what they don't know so they don't make big mistakes, willing to go above and beyond, and a team player. So look at this. Here we got somebody else that did some Udemy certification load. I set up an S3 bucket. Who cares? Here we've got our students. I built the cloud. So no, which person looks more motivated to the employer? I set up an S3 bucket. I built the cloud. Who's more knowledgeable? I set up an S3 bucket. I built the cloud. Who's willing to go above and beyond? I set up an S3 bucket, which I taught an 8-year-old to do in 5 minutes. I built the cloud. Who's more energetic, enthusiastic, passionate? I built the cloud. Who knows what they know and doesn't know? I taught an 8-year-old to do an S3 bucket in 5 minutes. Can't teach somebody how to build the cloud in 5 minutes. You got to learn what you know and not know. So it's a big difference. So we pick certain things to make employers see, wow, we have to hire you. So I hope I answered your question there. Feel free to ask some questions if you desire. We've got a big week ahead of us. It's going to be a super eventful week. Alonzo, the operative phrase of the day is opportunity cost. Exactly. What you lose by standing by and following the advice of getting a bunch of certifications. That's the thing. It's the opportunity cost. If it takes somebody a year to do 4 associate certifications, and in the end of the day, the employers say, who cares? Which is exactly what they say. Or better yet, I wanted an architect, not a DevOps engineer or a SysOps, which is a maintenance person, or a software engineer. I want an architect. So people can spend a year, which means the average salary of $155,000 is lost. And in that year, they're learning things that are totally unrelated. And then their value goes down. Because if I want a digital transformation specialist, I want someone that's got business executive experience and leadership experience and design experience, not maintenance experience or software experience. It's a different business. It's build your brand. If people know the Mercedes brand, right? They know it. Strong and powerful. They know the Apple brand. Fun and easy to use. Cool. Imagine if the Apple brand started making stuff that wasn't cool or hard to use. Apple couldn't charge 4 times the price than somebody else does. Apple can charge more because they've got a cool brand. The better your brand is, the higher your salary is going to be. Keep that in the back of your mind. So yes, it's all opportunity cost. Vishal, you're set after CCNP level knowledge where to start cloud. Should we follow a certification? Vishal, I have no idea what job you want to do. What would you like to do in cloud? The CCNP could be completely irrelevant if you want to be a DevOps engineer. The CCNP is mostly relevant if you want to be an architect. The CCNP is completely irrelevant if you want to do SysOps. Well, it's slightly relevant. So I don't know what kind of career you want. So Vishal, what career would you like? And again, the certification is not the answer. The certification is what career you would like and what skills you should learn. Certifications will not get you there. So let us know what you'd like to do, and then we can give you guidance, because certifications do not drive your career. You drive your career. If you want to go someplace, what do? If you can drive there, you get in your car. Okay, so you'd like to be an architect. So Vishal, here's the thing. Stop getting certifications. Certifications are the name of the service and how to configure that service. Now, I'm not sure if you're using if Archi means Archi or architect. One thing that I will tell you is if you're going to be an architect, you can't afford to use acronyms at all. Acronyms cause confusion. We were producing some content for the Azure Bootcamp, and my course developer talked about telemetry. And I said, you mean somebody's lead 2 on their EKG? And he said, no, I'm talking this telemetry. I said, the only telemetry that I know is somebody's EKG rhythm. Likewise, by comparison, MS, I've seen as an abbreviation. Microsoft, morphine sulfate, multiple sclerosis. And architects never use abbreviations, because if we did, our customers won't even read our stuff. So I'm guessing, which is dangerous. And when somebody abbreviates, that makes you guess. When you guess, you make mistakes. I'm hoping and guessing you mean architect. So again, you're saying CCNP knowledge, and I'm saying networking knowledge, and they're not the same. I don't care if you can go to a router and type config T, router BGP 65312, neighbor 192.168, remote AS 65313, network 10.0.0.0, mask 255.0.0.0, aggregate address 192.168.0.0, 255.255.0.0, summary dash only. I don't care if you can do that. That's irrelevant skills for the architect. Irrelevant skills. So you're saying CCNP, and I'm saying no. I'm saying networking. I need to know, do you know how to traffic engineer your BGP? Do you know when to prepend? Do you know when to set a community and match a community with? Do you know when to change the AS path? Do you know when to change the origin code? Do you need to know when to change the IP address, change the multi-exit discriminator? That's the knowledge I need you to have. How do you design your IP addressing scheme for 40,000 sites so that it summarizes easily? That's what you need to know, not that stuff that's in the CCNP. That's just tech stuff. I need you to know, how do you segment your network if you have OSP and you're running IBGP across it to carry your routes in between 3 different cloud providers? I need to know that. That's real work. When to use software-defined networking versus SASE? When to use a private line? That's network knowledge. What kind of DNS do I need here to improve that? That's the knowledge. So I need you to learn network architect knowledge, not network engineer knowledge. Same thing on the cloud. The certification is how to architect design. So learning how to configure an S3 bucket is irrelevant. Learning how to write a Python script is irrelevant for the architect. Learning Terraform is irrelevant for the architect. We design and present and sell. So you must know and understand server virtualization and how to optimize that, and containers and container orchestration and how to optimize that. What kind of a database do you use? How do you scale it? Wait, what if the traffic is all new traffic? What if it's variable traffic and caching will actually increase latency versus improve performance? Why this stuff works? When do you use a network load balancer? When do you use an application load balancer? When do you need to use a network load balancer to front end a bunch of application load balancers? Because you need speed and performance. I need you to know that. That's architect knowledge. How do you deal with block storage, which, despite what they tell you on certification, is really slow? So what kind of RAID environments do you need to speed it up? What's throughput versus latency, and how do you architect that? What applications should you bring in to improve business performance? How does tech change the workflows? Now, remember, we basically start. Okay, so yeah, you're giving me a different career. You want to join as a cloud network engineer. Okay, so that's different than the architect. Completely. So the cloud network engineer is going to be pretty much the same. They're going to need more CCIE level knowledge than CCNP level knowledge, because there's going to be a lot more BGP. And BGP at the CCNP level really doesn't cover a lot of BGP. The CCNP level is more still junior level configuration, but there's going to be more of it. So it's the same thing. You're still going to need to know how to set up BGP and how to tune the BGP. but now it's a different skill set. Now you're going to need to know how to configure OSPF versus intermediate systems. You're going to have to be very familiar with GRE tunneling and tunneling multicast through cloud providers, which don't work. You're going to be very good with your knowledge of route reflectors, because you're going to be using the equivalent of those things everywhere. You're going to have to get very good at software-defined networking and SASE. Now, you're going to be configuring all this stuff as the engineer. So you're going to have to get used to the command lines of all the routers, the Juniper stuff, the Cisco stuff, but also the stuff on the cloud providers, which means you're going to have to know how to be setting up VPC peering, do your route filtering. And now you're going to have to get involved in virtual networking, because nobody's going to be using like these silly cloud native firewalls. You're going to be bringing in virtualized firewalls and other virtual network appliances in from Cisco, etc. Virtual VPN concentrators, you're going to be dealing with that kind of stuff as well. Going to need to know some TACACs, some radius, but also Active Directory, because you're going to be dealing with a lot more of that. You should know some good knowledge of QoS on the way to the cloud. You should have good WAN knowledge. Now, as a cloud network engineer, you're going to be automating. So as a network engineer, not an architect, you're going to need to know Python in today's world. And you're also going to have to get used to these virtual network appliances. So those would be the kind of things that you would use. So you can see architect and engineer are exactly different. And I would say the intro level AWS Certified Solution Architect Professional which is very junior level when you're really talking about certifications and knowledge, compared to like a CCNP, it's like nothing. But the Certified Solution Architect Professional will match the CCNP. And if you really want to go far, you're going to need a lot deeper knowledge than the CCNP knowledge as a network engineer. I will tell you that when I did my CCIE, and my CCIE number is 7417, so I did it when it was a hard 2-day exam, not a simple exam. What happened is too many people failed it when it was a 2-day exam, so they made it 1 day to make it easier, because people are just complaining. I will tell you, after I did the CCIE, that's when I started to learn networking. Because up until including the CCIE, it was still junior level stuff. It was after I was a CCIE for about 5 years where I got to start working on projects where I actually really got to learn. And I got to see that the CCIE was really intro level. So CCNP is good to get start. Learn those other things on the cloud, which is a good start. And then build up your networking knowledge, and you'll build a better career that way. Keep focusing on BGP, more BGP, more BGP, more BGP. I spent over 10,000 hours of BGP before I thought I understood it. And that's what I'm saying. BGP, BGP, and more BGP. And Vishal, cloud network engineering is a great career. It's wonderful, wonderful, wonderful. And I encourage you to do it. I spent a lot of time in network engineering, and I loved it. But I liked architecture more. But that's for me, and it's the personality. We got to be what we love. Great plan. Now I understand it. Pawan Kumar, I am excited for the Azure Cloud Bootcamp by Mike March 14th. I'm super excited to make sure everybody signs up. It's going to be fun, fun, fun. Free training. Fun, fun, fun. We have lots of people that get cloud hired to stay with us for about a month or so after that. And then after that, our students still have access to their Slack channel. And many of our students, after they've been getting jobs, have not only been bringing other students with them to get hired with them, but also they've been helping each other as they get their jobs. So they've formed their own networks, absolutely, to help each other. We do have the ability after people get hired to help them with architectures, but that gets involved in one-on-one consulting. And we're able to take a $50,000 course and make it $1,000. But when it comes to dealing with one of our architects, and you're dealing or me with time, there's just only a limited amount of time in the day. So we allow our students to attend the class for an extra month after they succeed, and they can still work with each other. And our students don't have a problem. The reason our students do so well and just hit the ground running is as follows. The stuff we give them is so complicated in our class that when they actually get an interview, they laugh. They're like, "Are you kidding? This is an interview? You can't be serious. This is it?" So our students don't have a problem because we train them right. But you would have plenty of support. Leon, you are more than welcome. I just want to get you hired, and that's why I do this. That's why I do this. Ken Kenji, what certification the cloud architect needs? Ken Kenji, you need none. I'm not joking. I've gotten people hired this year that had 0 certifications whatsoever. I've also gotten people hired this year that had 0 degrees too. Now, what certifications do I recommend? 1 cloud certification. Either the AWS Certified Solution Architect Professional, the Google Professional Cloud Architect, or the Azure Solution Architect Expert. Just 1. And then a network or data center certification. Personally, I like the CCNA or CCNP as a networking one because the cloud isn't nothing more than a network and a data center. There's the VMware Certified Professional, which is okay. There's a Red Hat Certified Engineer, which is okay. But realistically speaking, my favorite combination, or for people that like cloud security, I like the CISSP. So for cloud networking, I like the CCNP and the Certified Solution Architect Professional, the Azure equivalent or the Google equivalent. For security, I like the CISSP or the CCSP plus one of those 3 professional certs. And for everybody else that wants to be generic, I kind of like either a VMware professional, a CCNA, CCNP, or a Red Hat thing, just something to show network and data center competency. But again, remember, certifications don't get you hired, just an interview. So we're just trying to build interview competency as opposed to real competency. Chinju, Hire Cloud Architect program says an average of 16 weeks. That's for people that have lots of experience in tech. What's the maximum bandwidth for your program? I don't know what you mean by that. Are you referring to how much bandwidth I need to have on my internet connection? Because we're dealing with HD video for the most part. So there's that. I may not understand what you mean by bandwidth because bandwidth to me means network connectivity speed. How long do our students have access to the labs? 16 weeks for our labs. And the class material, our students can stay on our program for upwards of a year. So if I've got a network engineer, somebody like that, it's about 16 weeks. When I've got somebody with no tech background whatsoever, we're typically dealing with about 8 to 10 months. I'll expect that to be 9 to 11 months if the economy gets a little slower, but about 8 to 10 months. We allow our students to stay in the program for a full year. Access to the class materials is never taken away from our students because as long as they're in business, we figured they bought a class, they should keep getting the class. We don't take it away. That's just not fair. Access to our labs are 16 weeks just because we're giving somebody a $2,000 server to use, which is 3 times the cost of the program. So they're doing lots of work on our servers, so we've got to limit that. But that's it. So we keep you until you are hired. Our success rate is astronomically high because of that, because for us, if it takes you 9 months to get through our program or 6 months, we don't care. We just like to stay and continue to attend classes, continue to design architectures with us. And then once you're hired, you're hired. We know you're good. There's no rush. So there's that. Now, how many hours per week? It all depends on how fast you want to get done. There's 500 hours to our training. So that means 10 hours a week, it's 50 weeks. 20 hours a week is 25 weeks to get through the content. But, that's on you and how hard you want to work through it. But, for us, those are the most critical things we're talking about. All my concern is, all Chris' concern is, all Leo's concern is, all Charles' concern is, all Eddie's concern is, and all Alonzo's concern is that you're hired. Why else would we do this? There's no point in making courses if your students get hired. I'd never produce something somebody can get a worthless certification to stick on the wall. I do that free. And even still, when we teach our certifications, we teach a lot more than other people do. We teach the why, not just the how. Oh, you're welcome. You met new to tech. Yeah, I'd say new to tech, you're dealing with, 8 months, 10 months. Okay, so if there's any last questions, I'll answer them right now. Otherwise, it's going to be a real busy and eventful week for Go Cloud Careers with our free boot camp, discussions with some of our people. So we're going to have a really fun week for you. And so anyway, any last questions, I'll answer them now. Otherwise, I will see you guys tomorrow on the free AWS Certified Solution Architect Expert Boot Camp. Kan Kenji, what's our program success rate? Here's the thing. Anybody that does the work and continues the work gets hired. So we're at nearly 100% of the people that do all the requirements of our program. Now, that doesn't mean buy our program and not finish it. It means buy our program, do every project, turn everything. If we ask you to redo it again, do it again. Attend every class, do the work, change your resume the way we tell you, get the certifications exactly the way we tell you, do the work. You should be hired in the end. Because we don't quit on you until you're hired. We give you a full year in our program for that reason. All I care is that you get hired. And we are crazy motivated to doing it. So it looks like this. I think we should close a few minutes early today. Let's give everybody some rest and let's have a fantastic boot camp starting tomorrow. We're going to go talk about Azure, and it's going to be fun. So hope you all had a wonderful day. Please take advantage of our 30% off so you can reach your full potential. And that's what we use, Coupon Code Potential. Go achieve your potential. Go conquer your dreams. Want to become a cloud architect? We've got a program for you. Want to become a cloud engineer? We've got a program for you. All I want to see you do is get cloud hired. Thank you so much. It's been fun to see you every day, and I will see you all very soon tomorrow. Take care, everybody.